Hey guys, and welcome to Beating the Press podcast, your weekly podcast where we talk all things football. If that's your type of thing, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff down below. Today I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Ty, and today we are going to be talking about England. Where else should we start? We're going to be talking about England, we're going to be talking about the quarterfinals as a whole, and also our predictions on the semi-finals. But again, we'll start with England.
Well, where else to
I feel,
start?
I just feel so deflated, even like just talking about it.
I know it's. I mean, I watched it and I was absolutely good. Both my daughters put the England tops on and they were ready watching
Mm.
it. Family were, wife was. I mean, they're not football fans, but they really brought into it. The game itself, I thought, and my prediction, I thought it'd be tight and England would edge it. I just think looking back, they were the better side. If it went to form and domination and the chances and the proper refereeing performance, it probably would have ended like that. But the margins are so small when it comes to that elite level of football, and I think England have unfortunately fallen the wrong side of it. The one thing I will say is we put the question and we challenged England and Southgate to say whenever they played against proper team, they've already fallen apart. Now they've lost, but they didn't crumble this time. They were the better team. They played the better football. They deserved to win, but unfortunately, just you missed Harry Kane. You'll put your mortgage on it to score you for second time, and he's done something. I genuinely couldn't believe it when he missed, and he's obviously missed, and the whole thing around it. I mean, the general feeling around, especially on social media, speaking to people, is a feeling of pride because they made England are now one of the top nations in the world, and I think that's indisputable. In previous years, there was a felt like we felt there was a sense of entitlement, a sense of we're there because we invented the game or we played in 1966, won the World Cup in 1966. There's a lot of that, but this time I think it's what you do on the pitch that really dictates that. And I thought on the pitch they were brilliant to a man. A lot of his decisions have been questioned, but I really couldn't question anything. The only thing I would say is some of the timing of the substitutions. But generally, the way they played, the way they were set up, they were the better side. I mean, France scored the two goals. They had that Giroud chance with Pickford save and that Rabiot volley from the. The too many chances isn't even a chance. You know what I
It's a
mean?
hell of a finish, isn't
I
it?
know it's not even a chance. The Griezmann one's just like an unbelievable, probably the cross of the tournament. And Giroud's not even it's deflecting, it's hit Maguire, it's gone in as an own goal, and just sometimes you feel like it's just written against you, and that was one of the moments. If you try to compare it to the Croatia and Italy game, three different things. If you compare Croatia and Italy as in one, and the France game, Croatia and Italy, he was tactically outclassed in both of those. England were outplayed in both of those. You can't say that this time, and I just feel there's that feeling of regret and disappointment and just pure good. It felt really empty the next day as well. I said to Ricky, I said, I'm so glad it's Sunday tomorrow because I tell you what, there'll be a lot of depressed people about. What about you? Because it's the first time we're actually speaking about it. I think after the England game finished, I said, oh, God, and we must have said about 3 words to each other, and that's it. We've not actually spoke because you could just sense the disappointment.
Yeah, regret that's the word that you used, and it's definitely the word that I use. I feel like it's a missed opportunity, and it's like you say. Normally, I feel like I can blame someone. I can feel like I can hang it off someone, but this one I'm struggling. If you think about Tuchman's goal, I was like, can they close him down? But they tried to close him down, and it just managed to find a way through. The Giroud goal, yes, stopped the crosses. Could we get out there quicker? But they recycled it really quickly, got it out, and Jordan Henderson tried to cover it. Maybe the marking might have been a little bit tighter, but he's class. We mentioned it in the last one. We said Mbappe. It probably won't be Mbappe. We said it could be the guy in the wing, Dembele. It could be Giroud, and in the end, the difference was Giroud, who was, funnily enough, going to be brought off for. I can't remember his name. Thuram. Yeah, he was going to get brought off Thuram. So it's just the way that these things happen, and like you say, you feel like it's always that. Well, it's not like unlucky losers as normal, but I just feel like if we'd got past France, I'm not going to say we were going to win it, but I'd have felt very, very confident at that point because it's that hurdle that we keep on talking about coming up against that next level of opposition. But I do have one thing. This is the first time that I'm not going to call for Southgate to go. It was going to be my question to you, like, do we think that Southgate should go? I'm not saying that I want him out. I just don't want him to be the England manager. Yeah, and you know, it's weird because I just think he's gone as far as he can go. That I feel like he can go with the team. Yeah, he's got us to a level, and there's only so many times where I feel like, you know, he's done a good job to keep everybody together as a group and all that. But that only gets you so far. You know, I just think a better manager would have better results. And I know what you're going to say, but I think we've got a generation here where, you know, they're ready to go to that next level, and I don't feel like he can do it. You know, he brought, when we were on top in that game, I don't feel like he took it to that next level. I don't feel like we could have created something in open play. It felt like we weren't going to create anything. Our goal came from a penalty, and we look at almost threatening through set pieces. I just thought a change when we were around about the 70th minute when we were on top. It was almost like he was waiting for something to happen. He was waiting to go behind or waiting to go in front, and then he would react based upon that. I would just like, you know, we are strong on set pieces. I just felt like we couldn't do it. So someone like Jack Grealish, James Maddison, something like that, just something a bit different. But he brought on Raheem Sterling, who had trained one day and didn't really do anything. And I just don't understand that substitution at all. I don't understand Jack Grealish at 90, whatever, but that was only because Stones was injured. And I just don't even know why he brought Maddison along. I think that was just to quell all the critics. And he just didn't give him any time. I just don't understand. Those are the only things that I can get to him at.
Yeah, I mean, I completely get it. I mean, if we just, you know, the emotion sort of died down a bit now. You can look at stuff a bit more rationally and logically. And I'm looking at that game now and thinking, right, okay, you've done well. I mean, the first goal, obviously, Saka's a foul. You know, sometimes it's a horror decision from the referee. I mean, I know VAR only got like 25 seconds. It was too long, but there's enough after that for that goal to be stopped. There's, you know, Declan Rice diving in. I think that's probably the only bit where I think I'd criticise. Because if he doesn't dive and he keeps walking along and he's in that position to stop get shot getting in. When England equalised, it was about 48th minute when it was early 50th minute. From when they equalised to when France scored the goal, there was about 20-minute gap there. That 20-minute gap, England were on top. And that was a moment for me where I thought England could have gone, you know, when you look back and you think England could have gone in for the kill with the changing of the substitution and what you've done. So Giroud scored the goal and on came Mount and Rashford, but they were coming on for Henderson and for
Saka.
And
Saka was
if you
one.
go back,
well.
Saka was England's best player. Why he thought that and not Foden? We talk about moving forward and in century. The Mount substitute, the Mount and Rashford substitution was going to be made at 1-1. Now that for me is just sort of like we'll stay with what we've got. Once you go behind with 15 minutes to go, and you know it's 13, but we'll throw an injury time. About 15 minutes to go, those two get in the bin, or you don't. You keep Rashford and you take on a defensive-minded player. You've got to go. You've got to risk it. Don't know if you watched the Holland game. Louis van Gaal, you went absolute route one, but he took defensive players off and he took two units up top and he just launched it. I'm thinking, Callum Wilson, James Maddison, this is the time where you sort of think, who have we got attacking players? I was even thinking, get Trent on the right-hand side because we can get some quality in. You know, just get him in, get the ball in some quality. Those sorts of things you're thinking, he did what I did as a manager. Do you know when you're in a game and you're drawing and you're thinking, we're on top here, well, you don't want to change too much just in case you tweak it too much and it messes up on the other end and they score, and then it's a really tight game. It's that bravery you've taken. So Jurgen Klopp always says something, is it to win games there has to be risk. In the biggest of games, and I talk about Champions League and stuff, there has to be risk. Now, when you're not World Cup, international managers, whenever they're in World Cup, those moments when they get in World Cups, they just happen once every 2 years or 4 years, depending on the World Cup, European Championship. So they're only sort of exposed to that in those 2-year, 4-year periods. Champions League managers, Premier League managers are playing big, high intensity, important, pressurized games regularly. So they're more used to making those decisions, and they have the courage of their conviction. Gareth Southgate, if you're talking about your players like James Maddison, Trent, Callum Wilson, he's got his favourites. You look at Mount coming on. Mount should not have been anywhere near that team because he's been poor this tournament. Okay,
the substitutions are telegraphed.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way. Sterling's been poor. He should not have been anywhere on there. If you're going to bring on Rashford, who scored most goals, you got Mount. He doesn't need to. He shouldn't be anywhere near that team at the moment. I get he's your favourite, but he's been so poor. He doesn't be nowhere near that team. Callum Wilson was a threat because he does give you that threat in behind as well. Got more pace. Harry Kane control. We stayed with the same formation. There was no changing of formation. There was no getting more bodies forward. It was like, we'll keep the ball, keep moving, recycling. Last 4 or 5 minutes, we felt like we were just going through the motions. Apart from obviously the Rashford free kick, which is, if he sticks that in, brilliant. Even for that free kick, I was thinking get Trent on.
Madison, Madison, yeah.
I was
just for that one.
Just for that one moment, I was like, this is it. Get him on.
Yeah.
Anyway, just think outside the box. This is like a penalty. It could be. It's between a penalty and a free kick for them.
Yeah. You hit the nail on that. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like, you mentioned that we were on top once we scored, but there was a moment like it started changing back and it started becoming a little bit more even again. And that's when it was about the 70th minute, and I thought, that's when you've got to make the change. We haven't capitalized on that momentum. And I said to the guy that I was watching it with, I said, his next substitution will define what we want to do. And just as though I'm saying that, Mount, the commentator mentioned Mount getting ready to come on, and after straight away, right, like you said there, that's settling. That's settling to go into extra time, because if he was thinking to go and win the game, it'd have been Rashford. It might have been Grealish. And I think Grealish has been absolutely bang average this year. But what he does have, he has the ability to draw fouls all the time. And like I said, set pieces, that was the only way that I could see that we were going to get something from there. And like you say, if Trent's on the pitch, if James Maddison's on the pitch, if Jack Grealish is on the pitch, Callum Wilson is on the pitch, that's a manager that's going to go for it. And I just think that pragmatism, we've been not stuck with it, because that's a harsh word to say to someone that's done so well. But for want of a better word, we've been stuck with it for too long now. And I just think it's time for someone else.
I've got a question for you. So you think time for someone else? So I'm just going to say something, okay? So you think time for someone else, okay? And there's obviously been a lot of support for him in and around the camp for, we love Southgate.
Yeah.
My question is, if you ask Trent, Maddison, all these players that aren't currently playing, Fikayo Tomori, another one, players that you think are better than what we've got, and I don't think there's much argument for it. Do we want Southgate in charge? Do we think? I mean, all the talk is he wants us to be front foot attacking, which I thought they were against France, but I think you can't just look at that game in isolation. You got to think bigger. We spoke. I thought after this World Cup, regardless of result, I think he'd go, because he's been with England for a long time, and the 3 tournaments. Obviously, he's going to have the final decision, because the FA England that plays, they want it to stay. The decision will be on him. But for England to win, and this has been mentioned before, and we can't argue against it. You can't measure Southgate's success by beating teams he's favourites to beat and coming short up against teams when he's the underdog. He's not doing anything out of the ordinary. To say previous managers have fallen down when they played against teams that they were favourite against, that's not a great barometer.
No.
Current players are better. They're technically better. They're more comfortable on the ball. You could have pretty much any manager in charge of that team, and they finished about there. I expect them to get to the semi-final. It's a quarter-final. You're falling short. You're up against France, but it's a game you should have really won. I just think I get the argument both ways. I'm almost, and there's stuff about, we could keep sending him upstairs or whatever that means. What does that mean? How do you send someone upstairs? Not have like a technical director for the men's team for the FA.
It's because he's so nice.
Yeah, he's an FA man. The other question is, if you want him to go, who do you want to bring in? Considering you don't want a foreign manager, you want, and I looked at what I really like about this World Cup is I think every country has had the manager of the country, so same nationality, apart from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. I might be mistaken, but I think pretty much everyone. I think there's a joy to that, to show that we will promote our own managing coaches. And the Moroccan ones, we'll touch on about Morocco. And the one thing about Morocco and the fact that they've got that manager, and he's made a point, I thought it was brilliant, and he's right. So I have to win the World Cup or go far in Morocco, because no one else will give me a chance. And he's absolutely
Yeah,
right. I've got to prove people that I'm right, and I've got to do it with these players. And I think
yeah.
there's a bit of romanticism about that.
But yeah, to go back to go back to your first point. I just think, like you say about Trent, the other players that I really haven't got a look in, those are top players. You know, a lot of people would have them in their first 11, and you know, maybe if we compare the Euros team, maybe his team from 4 years ago, it won't be too dissimilar to what played on Saturday, because like we say, we can kind of telegraph his favourites. We can telegraph his substitutions. So it is a time to come. All I've been hearing is how good he is at getting the squad together. Yeah, that's brilliant. But I haven't heard any squad that came out in the World Cup that said, "Oh, we've got a crap mentality." I didn't even hear Sven-Göran Eriksson back in the day say, "Oh, there's divides in the club." They all say, "Oh yeah, it's great and great." Well, go and ask Trent. Go and ask the lads who are not playing. Don't be going asking Declan Rice. Don't be going asking Harry Maguire. Don't be going asking them lads. Ask the ones that are up against it.
Harry Maguire's got a statue of him. He's the only one that's playing him.
Exactly, yeah, and I just don't understand.
But
Yeah,
I thank Southgate and England for believing in me. I'm like, yeah, he's done well for England. You know, there are players that play well for England, but you know, normal managers would not have picked him. You know, with him now, you know, yeah. And then you got players like Conor Cody and who are never going to play, but is there for the banter. You know, yeah. I think it's telling that someone like that goes, and you've got real quality that doesn't get to go.
Yeah, I do think you know, like a lot of the good mentality between the group is the type of lads that you have. Like, you know, the rivalry is not necessarily what it was between Man United and Arsenal back in the day. Liverpool, Man United. This is not the era that we're living in at the moment. You know, it's more of a technical era. I don't know whether that's unfair, but it's more of a technical era. And I just think that the players are more likely to get along. Now, yeah, he's done a great job in that, but you know, these World Cups come around every 4 years. Obviously, the Euros come around the same amount of time and they overlap. But the likes of Trent, how can they not go to a World Cup, to a Euros and all that? It's not right. And I just think another manager comes along. The only one I can think about, because I do want an English manager, and you know, we're not blessed with a million English managers, but obviously it's the obvious name is the one that's just went to Chelsea, and you know, he's a coach. Like, he is a tactical man, Graham Potter, and I think he, for me, would be the perfect choice. But it's not going to happen just because he's just signed a new contract. But other than that, the names that have been touted are Pochettino, Tuchel, Brendan Rodgers. I don't really. Sorry, who else?
Steve Cooper and Eddie Howe as well.
Yeah. So Eddie Howe, yeah. Sorry, Eddie Howe. Maybe that's another one. And you know, it's Steve Cooper to an extent, but for me, yeah. So Graham Potter or Eddie Howe, they would be. I didn't even think Eddie Howe. They'd be my choices, but it's unlikely with the projects that they've got on at the moment. Real quick to finish on that, who do you think would who should go for it?
I think it's really tough. You're looking at, I mean, the thing is getting a lot more money at Chelsea than he will at England. There's Eddie Howe's done brilliant. Will they leave Newcastle for Champions League football and all that money he's got going in towards it to play? So, I mean, and Potter will be the same playing Champions League. I just think it's tough. I can't. There's not many good England managers, are there? You know, I think someone like Steve Brendan. I think Brendan Rodgers is Northern Irish, but I think that he's probably the one where you've got to manage club level. I almost think international managers like one of your last jobs. Generally, South Africa is kind of the other way around. But I do think, for me, I think Rodgers would be a good fit.
He's ambitious, isn't he?
Yeah,
he would definitely take that up.
And I think, but it comes down to Southgate, I don't know if he wants to do it. So I'm just looking out. We've got the Santa going past.
Just lastly on this, Harry Kane's penalty. I've heard a few people, and you know, it's so easy after the fact to say, you know, should he have took the second penalty? And I'm like thinking, you know, if you had to take that penalty again, let's say it happened again today, and you had the same 11 on the pitch, who are you going to choose? You know, you would choose him again. I would choose him again. It doesn't even matter. Even if he'd missed and then he has to take it again, I would choose him again because, you know, the alternatives on the pitch, Harry Maguire, he's going to get absolutely annihilated if he misses that penalty. I wouldn't wish that on Harry Maguire, much of that I'm not really bothered about him as a person, player or whatever. But him taking that after the season that he's had, he's going to get crucified. Saka, Rashford, the treatment that they got. I think Harry Kane is the one that could handle it the most out of everybody else. Like
him
to
and,
miss it.
Him and Henderson, I'd say they'd be the two.
Yeah, exactly. But
Henderson not penalty.
Would you want Henderson taking it after missing? No. That's the only thing. So yeah, he's getting a lot of stick, Harry Kane. But I just felt for him the moment that he put it over.
No, absolutely. Hopefully he'll do that against Liverpool when he plays for Tottenham. But yeah, that's just
not a chance.
No. So just to move along from there, England weren't the only team playing in the quarterfinals. There were some phenomenal ties, phenomenal performances. Some games were just ridiculous. So quickly go through them, and obviously we'll look forward to semi-finals because that's what it is. The Argentina-Holland game, I think, getting a record 17 yellow cards. Holland were dead. They were nowhere near it. I mean, it was just like Argentina was so far ahead and better. The two of them, they were flying, and then Holland stuck two massive 7'3" centre forwards on, and they just started shelling it. I mean, Louis van Gaal, every time he was in Man United, every time he goes behind, his tactic is launch the fucker. And that is what he does. He get it wide, shell it. It wasn't even get it wide. Every time they keep anyone, and if there was no press, just launch it. And it was playing second ball, and it just was carnage. And it was beautiful. I mean, I'm obviously one Argentina because I backed him and Messi. But watching it, I was like, this is just like this is beautiful. You've got teams trying to play football, and he's just gone back to archaic way of playing football and saying, there's a place for it, because no one knows how to defend against it. You don't have centre halves that are built to play non-league football. Do you know what I mean? Guess from them league centre halves, they'll be hoovering that up, they'll be looking at keep launching it. Whereas these guys, they were like, what we're gonna do is you've got Martinez who's like 4'3". It's like, oh yeah, you actually can't. It's like you got brought up. To happen. It's like you can't head a ball. Anyone knows you can't head a ball when it's up against someone. And Romero and Otamendi just couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? And they're decent. Otamendi did all right, but they just ended up being absolute carnage.
I love that it was the team that brought us, is the nation that brought us total football. That was the one that was just launching it in, and it was quite brilliant. The free kick, I texted you straight after the game. The free kick, it just was so reminding me. This is Zanetti versus England. As soon as I saw that free kick, it was so much invention. And I just thought, with the England free kick, were we going to do a little bit, Rashford's free kick at the end? Was there going to be something creative or anything?
I think the Holland one is literally 1 in 1,000. That's when you do it. You never expect it because you never plan for it. You know what I mean? No. It's just never going to happen. But apart from that one time, and to do it in the 101st minute of a quarterfinal, knowing full well if this goes wrong, it's all over. And they did it, and they went through. And then obviously,
devastated.
We were
devastated.
I was gutted when that happened. I just couldn't. But the whole quarterfinals had me on edge because I had interest in every single one. The Morocco one, I've got them on the other half to get to the final at least. And they were brilliant. They put their bodies on the line. They play like a team, and you can't say they're a counter-attacking team, but when they get the ball, they play really good, incisive football. They create more chances than the opposition. We went to Portugal game. They had about 3 clear-cut chances. The one where he threw on goal and he tried to dink him. I'm like, what are you doing? Just run around and there was some absolute bonkers. And you got Ziyech and Boufala just on a different level. El Nesri is class players. So the front lines, Amrabat, I think he's obviously, I mentioned him in my last podcast, but Unai in the centre midfield was a standout player. I'd not really seen him much. I've watched Morocco play, but he's not really stood out. And he was brilliant. The left back Ayatollah was coming for Mazraoui, was just class as well. Morocco are really proud, and I'm glad it was the focus was on Morocco, not about Ronaldo's, and because it's with all due respect, piss off. This is a huge.
It's their time.
This is like a moment for Africa, for the Arab world, for the Muslim world. There's a lot of emotion and a lot of power. Sports so really, really powerful, and for a country of that who's not really classed as a footballing nation, they might be in their own land, but the rest of the world don't really see it because ultimately how good you perform in tournaments will dictate how you're seen globally. And I just thought it was brilliant just watching it, and then the emotion and the mums coming on as well, and the players hugging the mums. I just thought it was just beautiful, and it just I thought I said to you I shed a tear, but just because I you sort of feel it, don't you? And then I watched that, and then the Brazil game was just before, and I was wanted. I've always not liked Brazil. I've had a dislike to Brazil ever since 1994 when they beat Italy on penalties, and ever since then I've had a dislike to them. The only player
anyone but Brazil.
yeah, well, a bit more. The only player that I've watched and I thought, yeah, I like him, and I really, I want him to do well for Brazil. Ronaldo, I know the original, but I've always had a dislike to Brazil because I think there's this thing and people put on a pedestal like they don't play great football at tournaments. They might play well for like little, bursts of football, or they might do a bit of skill. But they're really pragmatic, Brazil. They're really defensively sound, and that's the way they play. And they're the master of dark arts as well. All that stuff gets overlooked. But I thought Croatia outplayed them. The midfield dominated that game. And I only felt it was right that the game went to penalties, at least.
They thought they had it won, didn't the Brazilians?
Yeah,
they thought they had it won.
Yeah. I mean, Neymar's goal was just out of this world, but then I thought Croatia deserved it, and then they went on, and then absolutely brilliant. And then last but not least, we obviously had the was it England? So it was France, Morocco, then Argentina. Argentina obviously beat home as well. So that was the 3 games, and I thought semi-finals looking forward sets us up really nicely for that. How do you see it? I know what would be my dream final, but yeah, how do you see it?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the table now, and the romantic side of me obviously wants Argentina versus Morocco, and the reason why I want those 2 teams is because of the fans. Like, I don't think you can set it up any better between the Argentinians and the way that they follow their country, and the Moroccans, they're so loud, and obviously, but with that scenario, it's hard. Either way, for me, I feel like it's going to be pure heartache if that is the final. Yeah, if Morocco win, obviously they take away from my boy Messi, and then if Messi wins it, yeah, I'll be buzzing. But Morocco could have done the unthinkable. But I think them just getting to the final will be a win. Well, getting to the semi-finals is a win in itself. But from what I gather, Morocco will be missing a couple of key. Well, they could be missing a few key players. I've seen here. Amrabat is carrying a bit of a knock. Aguerd and is it Roman Size?
Yeah,
he's going to be out.
Yes, they were missing 2 of the back. They're missing the left back. They're missing the centre half. Obviously, Saiz had to go off. He played with a hamstring for 60 minutes.
Yeah,
and he was literally hobbling at the end. So them 2 not playing. You've just got to go with what the replacements are absolutely brilliant. But the Morocco, I mean, that would be the perfect final for me as well. But I think, and I'll say this now, I think if Morocco win the World Cup, it will be the greatest achievement in footballing history. Yeah. That's it. Anything that's ever happened before, includes Leicester winning the Premier League.
I asked you that in the last podcast.
Yeah, I think when you think of the gravity of what it means to the rest of the world and different parts of the world, and you talk about football being a global sport. And that really, really will hit home. I think that will be, more than just footballing reasons, you'll have a large amount of the world actually wanting Morocco to win as well. For what they've done and what they've achieved. I mean, don't get me wrong, they might not even qualify for the next. They could win this, not quite well. They'll be there as hosts, but as winners. Sorry. But I think I've just thought about it after the game and recently when they've been doing. I think if Morocco win it, it'll be the greatest. I'll say greatest sporting achievement in the history of sport. I'll go as far as that.
Well, you see the influence. You see the influence that the Olympics, for example, has on whatever sport, whatever country it's in. So for London, we had it like such positivity around.
There's still stuff like from the Olympics legacy that's going on.
And Wimbledon, when someone British gets to the semi-final or the final, you can see it feeding through for the next 10 years. So Arab nations will have the benefit of that. Obviously, they're up against France, who for me have been impressive, but they just keep on chugging away and chugging away. How do you think the semi-final is going to go? You've went Morocco. What are you going to do now?
Yeah, I still think Morocco. I just think I saw something. England and France are the 2 best teams left in the tournament. Disagreed massively with that.
Yeah.
I think I've watched France play. I watched all the games. Obviously, France haven't been great in a game. They've played well in moments. They've given chances up against pretty much every team they've played against, and in moments they've been lucky. They were lucky against Denmark, lucky against England. They've not been brilliant. I think as a team, there'd be an argument to be made. I think Argentina and Morocco have been 2 of the best teams. Morocco as a team, just because they've not had the ball doesn't mean they've played well and they've had the ball. And Argentina have just been really good. They've had the moments, obviously, the Dutch one where they just sort of ref took over and he just started handing cards out and free kicks for fun, which obviously had a swear on it. But then, no, I disagree with that. You know, I think too often we think best team is best players and names. The teams that I would say are best two teams are Argentina and Morocco, and I think it'll be tight again. There's obviously a closer connection between France and Morocco just because there's a lot of overlap with players playing in the French league.
Yeah, well,
I think it'll be tight again.
Yeah, well, Morocco seem to score in every they seem to score in every game. They create chances, but I'm just looking at the results here. You've got Croatia, Belgium, Spain, Portugal. Only one team scored against them in the whole tournament.
Canada, isn't it? Yeah.
Canada, an own goal.
Yeah.
So that's it. Tells you everything you need to know.
I mean, you talk about everyone's talking about Mbappe. He's up against Hakimi, who is, you know, I mean, he's one of the best in the world. Yeah.
That's a good
subplot as well. So you've got, and then the midfield.
That's the thing that.
Well.
Sorry, that's the thing where, you know, we kind of questioned in the last podcast. Do they have something going forward? And in Hakimi, they're going to have something going forward that they'll have to worry about just as much as Mbappe going the other way.
I think the front three for Morocco are a huge threat. You know, Ziyech, El Nesri, and Boufal, they've been really good. Unai
Upamecano.
Yeah.
Upamecano was poor. He was poor in the last game.
The biggest weakness I watch him play, right, and I think, you know, whenever they're playing, he's a left-sided centre half and he doesn't have a left foot. And it's brutal. He's got the left foot of like me having a left foot. You can just tell he's so awkward when he's trying to pass the ball with his left foot, and that's a big weakness for him. And I thought England targeted him really well down that side, down that channel, because there's a weakness between that left back and the centre half, that little gap in there. And Lloris has got a clanger in them as well. I'm saying it, you know what I mean? So, I think Morocco just maybe even on penalties, but I think Morocco it'll be another backs to the wall. But I don't know. I think they might even have more of the ball than the beginning against Spain and Portugal. So I don't think France are a possession-based team. They don't mind the opposition having the ball because they're better on the break, aren't they? So it'll be interesting how that pans out.
So over to the other semi-final, quick result on that. Argentina, obviously, they had a few bookings. They're missing their fullbacks, Montiel and Acuna.
They've got Molina and Tagliafico, who I think are probably better fullbacks.
I've went against Croatia every single time, and they keep on proving me wrong. I'm going to go against them again. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Messi is going all the way. He's been the player of the tournament. I think there's some real. I thought Martinez when he came on was brilliant, and I think he's been the most unluckiest player in the tournament, because if little bits of luck went his way, he'd be the top scorer in the tournament right now. But he doesn't have a goal. He's had 2 goals to start against Saudi Arabia. He's hit the post. He's the keeper making about 3 or 4 worldy saves. He'd have been out of sight, and I thought his movement was really good. He was better than Alvarez when he came on. It wouldn't surprise me if he started against them and him being the difference maker. I think they've got a good balance. You know, they've always got an edge to them. I think it'll just be that midfield domination, you know. And I think Croatian midfield's brilliant, but the rest of it, I think, as you know, it's Messi. And if Messi needs a couple of moments, and he'll win the game for him. And I just think I think it may well end up being that. It'd be interesting if Argentina play 3-5-2, or if they go back to their 4-3-3. Because obviously changed against Holland, didn't they?
I'm like you. Just the vision to see that pass that he played in the Holland game. It's just whether Argentina can keep their heads for me. Like I think it will go a long way. If it goes into penalties, I am not backing against that Croatian goalkeeper.
No, you're not bashing Martinez as well. He's an absolute.
Yeah, true.
Copa America is one of
True. Yeah. So yeah, it depends if Messi shows up, which he always does, and if Argentina can keep their heads. And I think Argentina will nick, and I hope they do. Anyway, yeah. So we're about to finish up. As always, we have a question of the day, and I am just delaying so you can get them cogs going in your head. What?
So I knew it was coming my way, because you ain't got nothing in your brain, have you?
No, absolutely not. So yeah, what's your question?
It's not a simple one. I'd like to think, you know, people give it a bit of thought. So is it time for the Southgate era to come to an amicable end? That's it.
Yeah.
Should Southgate leave?
Absolutely. I'm going to answer that. Yes.
He's obviously having a think. He's having a think about it and stuff. So yeah. So just let us know your answers down below. Stick it in the comment section. We do respond. And just let us know if you do think it's time for him to move on. Who would you like?
I just had a quick question for you as well. Question for Ty of the day. England's best moment of the tournament.
Oh.
I'm going to go with, I'll tell you mine first. Bellingham. Bellingham, where he burst through the midfield in the second, the Kane goal. That was my moment.
What would you when he missed, or when he missed and went up?
No, when Bellingham drove through, Kane scored his goal, and that was my moment of the tournament for England.
For me, it was Kane's penalty miss, because it's a bad one. I know. You put your mortgage on him to score, with the devastation and the depressive nature it had on everyone, and it's kind of bad way, but I just think it summarised England's. You've got everything there in the palm of your hands, but you managed to still spoon it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Against one of the most trustworthy players you've got there.
Brilliant. Well, we're out. We're devastated, but as always, we will be here for the next round of the tournament, which will be, we'll be predicting our final winner. So, with that being said, I want to thank you for joining us. And is there anything you want to say, Ty?
No, enjoy the last few games of this wonderful World Cup, which I think has been the best one in living memory.
Excellent. Like, subscribe, comments, all that down below. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Bye.